right, let me start from here. Yes, DRC has been the child poster of almost every global report on food crisis for the last 5 years. Of course, for all the bad reasons. Here, if you are familiar with the report, you are probably familiar with this infamous list of 10 top countries. And DRC is the only country that has not changed its ranking since 2021, 2022, 2023. Why? Because it's the country that consistently has the highest number of population in crisis and emergency. There's a little bit of improvement, so to speak, between 2022 and 2023. The number of those in emergency has been reduced, but still DRC is on top of the list, and that is problematic probably, for all, because DRC has probably half of the arable land in Africa and half of the available water, surface water in Africa. So that's, and then, when you go look at the country as a whole, this is the latest IPC release, projection between January and June 2023. The whole country is under phase 2 or higher, with millions still under acute malnutrition, including pregnant and breastfeeding women, and of course, children as well. So that is, my take has always been that such consistent situation cannot happen randomly. There must be reasons behind, drivers behind. And my little theory is around two main issues here. The first one may be misunderstanding of the crisis, which unfortunately leads to maybe wrong interventions, wrong prescriptions. That's one. Or maybe even more important, a colossal failures in leadership, in governance. So let me start with the first one. When you look at the one of the provinces, the eastern provinces that is the most affected, the number of crises or shocks are quite significant, and not all are climate related. More than 21% under sickness and disease. This is the regions where you had Ebola, you had cholera, and then of course COVID-19. And on top of that, you have armed conflict. As of now, there are more than 100 militia operating there. You have the Ugandan's army, Kenyan army, the Rwanda, DRC army. It's a big conflict area. And then, of course, displacement for all kinds of reasons, some of them including conflict around natural resources like water, land, and then you add high food price and flood and drought. If you're following the news, yesterday or the day before, there was big flooding, which led to death as well. So that is the universe of crisis, shocks that DRC population, especially in that part of the country, are facing. And based on this already, the type of interventions, the type of package to respond to this must be holistic by nature. This is not something that you solve, fix by distributing aid or distributing seed. You need to bring a more holistic, comprehensive approach to that. And when you ask many of these households, they face more than just one shock. And here again, they limited to 3, but it's just because they asked the respondent to limit the answers to 3 shocks, which, you know, it should not be that way. In many surveys, we are still asking, has your household been affected by a shock, even without specifying which shock it is, and treating shocks as identical. But at least, and I'll show why it is very important when to capture the whole universe of shocks, because they are not identical when it comes to the impact on food and nutrition security. And so here you have it. No, all shocks are not identical. We use the, what is the impact of the probability of being hit by one of the shocks on food security using the food score, food consumption score. Here I took the 2 extreme state, poor food security and acceptable food security. And you can see that depending on the shock, the marginal impact is different. And one of the misunderstanding is treating shocks as identical. When we treat shocks as identical, first, it might have some statistical value to it, but in terms of policy design, it's completely useless, because you cannot design the response to food shock without knowing what it is. And here, clearly, depending on what the shock is, the marginal impact on food security is different. Even more than that, depending on where the household or respondent is with respect to the spectrum of food security, the impact also is different. The same thing here when we try to combine, because often we treat these shocks not only as identical, but as independent. But when we cross them, we treat them not as independent, but now we have, it's a compounding impact, which means that a household that has been already affected by a given shock, and then there is another shock on top of the existing one, the impact on food security, food and nutrition security is much higher. And we need to account for this. So the lack of understanding, the lack of clear typology of shocks with respect to its impact on food and nutrition security may lead to wrong interventions, wrong recommendations in terms of policies, and this might explain why this consistency in a food and nutrition security in a country that is endowed with so much natural resources. My second, it's unfortunate that you cannot read, but my second theory, so to speak, is a colossal failure in the country leadership. So where is the country, I wanted to say country leadership failing? And His Excellency is familiar with this scorecard, the CADEP DR scorecard. So every 2 years, we support African Union Commission to come up with this scorecard tracking the progress of each country with respect to the CADEP Malabo agenda. And the CADEP agenda, Malabo agenda has 7 commitments. And when you look at the, on first, overall, the country is not on track. But worse, when you look on the right, for each individual commitment, the country is not on track. So it's not surprising that the result that we see, the outcome we see on food and nutrition security is, in a way, is a result of the inputs, the governance and weak in implementing including the CADEP Malabo agenda. So out of the 47 indicators that we trace, that we follow, the country is on track only 4 out of 47. So it's not surprising that the result that we see at the end of the process is just, what goes into that process of designing, implementing, and delivering with respect to the development agenda, in this case, the CADEP Malabo agenda. So I'll stop here. I'll take some questions. Thank you.